Welcome to the Realizations Podcast. I'm Andrea Gordon, your host, and I'm excited to explore the world of real estate with you. In a world where perceptions often overshadow reality, Realizations seeks to redefine what it means to be a realtor. Join me as we peel back the layers of the industry, uncovering inspiring stories and celebrating the good in real estate. Whether you're a homeowner, a fellow realtor, or simply curious, this podcast is for you. Welcome to Realizations, where perceptions meet reality. Let's dive right in. Hello, it's Andrea Gordon here at Realizations, and on the podcast today, I'm super happy to have Susie Adamson. Susie, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
The reason Susie is on the show is because Sean Kunkler had me on his show, and he and I became friends. And then Sean and Susie are friends, and therefore Susie got introduced to me, and I'm super excited to get to know her and see what she does in the world. You are in Pennsylvania. You are outside Philadelphia. You worked in real estate for 9 years and in northern New Jersey, and now you've been in Pennsylvania for how long?
For almost 2 years.
For almost 2 years, and you are a coach.
That's right.
And your focus is on systems, operations, not purpose and productivity, but systems and operations. And you said the greatest thing to me earlier, you focus 100% on real estate agents because you believe that you should work an inch wide and a mile deep, which I love. I'm going to remember that forever. So welcome. Tell me a little bit more about who you are, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about the podcast, and we can see if it generates anything for both of us.
I love it. We had talked just prior to the call starting that you love immigrant stories. So I will tell you that I am an immigrant story as well. So I was born in South Korea. I moved here when I was 5. My parents moved here for the promise of a better life for me and my sister.
Yep.
And they left a much more comfortable life in Korea, came here and did the typical Korean American thing, which was to start stores. And my mom was a seamstress. And I mention all that just because I do think that growing up less affluent and watching my parents struggle a tremendous amount financially and otherwise, adjusting to a completely new culture. When we moved here, my sister and I did not know a word of English.
Wow.
And we literally would walk around my cousin's house. We lived with my cousins for a period of time and we listened to them. They were like 10 years older in high school, whatever. And we walked around imitating them. What we thought they sounded like, we would go, so we quickly learned how to speak English. And I do think that has shaped a lot of my ability to learn languages. And we were talking about how I think technology is a language. I think music is a language. So all of those things that your brain functioning, I really believe that knowing another language does shape your brain patterns and how you think.
Totally. Absolutely.
Great.
And my family's Icelandic, and my dad's side of the family was from Russia. My mom's side was Iceland, and my dad's parents came to this country at the turn of the century. My dad was much older than my mother. They came to this country at the turn of the century to escape what they called the pogroms in Russia. And my grandfather arrived in California, in San Francisco, the day after the 1906 earthquake, and he was a junk man.
Wow.
And my father was a musical prodigy. My father was a brilliant pianist. Wow. And when my grandfather realized what an incredible pianist my father was, he didn't think being a junk man was a profession that the father of a genius should have. And so he changed his field and became an investor. And
wow.
Yeah.
That is a great story.
Yeah, but that's the sort of thing that happens when you come from an immigrant family. Same thing happened. My mother's family, they came over from Iceland, then they went to Canada, then they traveled down to San Francisco. And my mother lived in a 2-bedroom house in San Francisco with 13 of her cousins, her parents, and their parents.
Wow.
Because there was no money. There was my grandfather from Iceland was a doctor, but of course his license wasn't any good here. And he went back to school and became a chiropractor. And everybody did odd jobs to everybody afloat. And I think that work ethic that comes in from being an immigrant and
Yes.
having to do that, first off, it never leaves them.
Yep.
And also, all those people went through the Great Depression.
Yeah.
So it really affects people's way of thinking about money and,
Agree.
and survival and
Yes.
how you move forward. And the trick is to get to the point where you're not in survival mode, because I
Yeah.
believe a lot of that generation was in survival mode.
Definitely. And there is a lot of that sort of generational, both generational trauma, but also generational learning and generational just like experience. And you just made me think that I think one of the other things that I did have to learn at a young age was how to read people non-verbally, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because I didn't know the language. I
Right.
had to learn very quickly how to interpret what was happening around me. And so I do think that informs how I did real estate, how I serve people,
Oh,
right? And to
absolutely.
intuit what was needed and just to be able to proactively adjust to people's expectations. And of course, that serves me well as a coach as well.
Oh, absolutely. I come to real estate from a background of doing theater.
Oh, yes.
Again, my mom was an opera singer. And again, remember, we didn't have a lot of money. So when she wasn't working in opera, she would do musicals. So
Mhm.
my sister and I would always get into there's always a kid in a musical. So my sister and I would get into the musicals. And there was one year we traveled all across the country doing The Sound of Music. And I played Greta, Marta, and Brigitte because I just kept growing out of the costume.
Amazing.
And,
Amazing.
and I think that going back to this idea of being able to read people, I think people that come from a theatrical background, I think the people
Mhm.
that come from a background where you've had to assimilate into
Yeah. Yeah.
culture, I think it's a very similar sort of a thing. I'm a theater director,
Yeah.
so I'm used to figuring out what makes people tick. In
Yes.
in acting, you ask yourself, who am I? Where am I? What do I want? What am I going to
Right.
do to get what I want? What are the obstacles to getting what I want? Very similar in life and in any
Yes.
decision-making process that people are in.
And as a director, you also have to navigate all the things going on behind the scenes, right?
Oh,
There's so
absolutely.
many
I
dots
love
that you
that. I
have to
love that
connect.
stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So I've always thought that if I hadn't gone to Compass, I would have started my own company and I would have populated it all with actors because
Yeah.
first off, we're innate people pleasers. We want everyone to like us. Secondly, we're incredibly used to rejection. We
Right.
are incredibly disciplined.
We're
We
good presenters.
Yeah, exactly. We have a kind of code of ethics that we all
Mhm.
abide by. We're incredibly collegial. We're incredibly collaborative. So
Yep.
all of the compass principles that we have
Yes.
actually fit straight into theater.
I love
Think
that.
about it. Bounce back with passion. Yeah.
Yep. Yes. All day long. Yep.
Obsess about opportunity. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
So,
Yes.
yeah. So you coach mainly Compass agents. Can
Yeah.
you give me a little bit of feedback on that?
Yes. So when I started coaching, I was sharing with you that when I got into real estate, actually, after the first year, I wanted to get into training and coaching because I saw the great opportunity that real estate provided for people, right? First of all, I got into coach to real estate not because I love selling houses. I don't love sales. I don't love houses. I don't necessarily even love people all the time.
I always say
Just
that.
not the nicest thing to say. I don't love everybody. I'm not inherently introvert. And so I got into training and coaching because after spending 10 years as a stay-at-home mom, I realized that a lot of my peers and my friends had just lost their sense of self, right? They just didn't feel like they had any value to offer in the marketplace. They couldn't understand why people would hire them. They had just lost a lot of confidence and courage, and it just broke my heart. And so I think part of it isn't just because of my immigrant background, but my parents. One of the things I realized as an adult is that my parents were very unusual Asian American parents or Asian parents. They didn't discourage me or my sister from doing anything. And so I grew up with a lot of not just confidence, but just like this expectation that I could do whatever I wanted to. And I saw that there were a lot of people around me that didn't have that, their baggage or from their recent experiences. And so I wanted to pour into people and give them the confidence and give them the empowerment to go out and make a great living for their families. And yet, I wanted to, because I came from an advertising and marketing background before real estate, I wanted to make sure I had a unique selling proposition. I
Yeah.
wanted to stand out from the pack. I did not want to be just another real estate coach. And so I waited a long time, noodling. Okay, I could do this. I could do this. I could coach this. But I knew I didn't want to coach agents just to make more money, but just to get more sales, which is what I found a lot of coaches were doing. Cold call, do this, do that. Just wasn't authentic to me. When I joined Compass and I saw the platform and I saw how much more productive you could be, and I live by the ethos that there's got to be a better way. I am super impatient and I don't want to waste my time doing 2 clicks for anything if I can do it in 1 click. I don't want to spend 10 minutes doing something I can do in 1 minute.
You must love the Compass platform then.
Yes. So I'm always looking for a shortcut. I'm always looking for a hack. I'm always looking for a template. I hate repeating things without a system. And so when I got to the Compass platform, I was like, yes, this is my lane, because I saw that most agents around us weren't using it to the full extent that they could. Because Compass only hires highly productive agents. And as I say, they can't change the tires while the bus is running. They're so busy running.
I'm going to write that down too.
Right. I'm sure I've stolen all of these quotes, so I can't take too much credit, but people ask me all the time, why don't agents take the time to build systems to improve their operations? I say, because they're so busy reacting in their transactions, right? They're busy serving their clients. It takes so much energy and bandwidth to sit down for hours at a time and map out a checklist, to create email templates for every email that you write. All of those things take a lot of focus time. And we just don't have that, right? It takes a lot of bandwidth. And so it's taken me 11 years to develop all of the templates, the shortcuts, the operations manual template. It took forever for us to get to a place on our team where we were running regular status meetings. So I know what the barriers are. I know why people resist taking on these new habits and new practices. And so I say, I give you like a muscle suit. You walk into a gym. If someone could hand you a muscle suit, wouldn't you take it? I give you that big shortcut, and then it's up to you to keep up the exercise to adopt it.
Like I read this, you know how you read junk news in the Apple News sometimes? I read this article about Tom Cruise and him likening how he stays fit to maintaining a car. Yeah. And it's so much harder when you don't have those skills, or when you don't have that muscle to develop it. It's much easier to maintain it. And I think that younger people have a little bit of an edge in terms of their computer literacy when looking at things like the Compass platform. Personally, I look at the first page that I get to on the website, and it's a little overwhelming.
It's very overwhelming.
Yeah. And so I tend to avoid it, which is not a good thing. Yesterday, I had a 3-hour training session with my staff and with our agent success manager, Wilbur, who is incredible. And now I understand how to do everything in Business Tracker, because I had been driving my staff crazy because they were doing everything in Business Tracker and I'm still doing DocuSign, forms, whatever. So when they were looking for things, they were like, oh, she's over there. So now I'm going to be in Business Tracker, but it's awesome. It's scary to me, I've got to say.
The other thing, I think you really hit the nail on the head, Andrea, as far as the overwhelming nature of the platform. And that is the case, I think, with a lot of technology, right? You have to, like, it's a very pinhole needle that you have to thread, where the platform is robust enough to be a one-stop shop, but not so robust that people can't figure it out. But I think it is a very small pool of agents that actually find where we are with the platform, the sweet spot. For most people, it is overwhelming. For most people, it is just like you look at it in stimulus overload. And not only that, but they're constantly changing it. So you can't keep up.
They tweak all the time. But I would impress the hell out of you. If you were to go to my page, I do not have a single likely to sell on there.
Amazing. How is that?
Because I have a virtual assistant in the Philippines, and we've created a 7-step program for the likely to sells. And we weed through them. And literally, when I started, here, I'm going to crack you up. I had 1,800 likely to sells.
Oh my gosh.
And for those of you out there, Compass has an algorithm where it figures out who might be willing to sell their house. And it comes from both your CRM, just
I don't know where the alchemy is, where they find all of these people, but these are people that genuinely might want to sell. And I can't tell you the number of times when I've looked at it and gone, God, I sold them a house like a year and a half ago. Why would they be selling now? And then I contacted them and they're like, yeah, so and so got a job or some such. And the computer actually had seen that before I had a chance to connect with it. So anyway, it was an overwhelming task and I put my virtual assistant on it just to make the first reach out to them. I called through to make sure there was nobody I hated on there. And then I gave them to her to work with and she created a 7-step platform and I offered to make them a CMA and we've actually taught her to do that. I look at them before they go out. And we, through a long, painstaking process, have gotten it down to 0. And it's always at 0 by the end of the day now.
I love that. And that speaks to a lot of what my coaching is about as well. Is like both building systems, but also finding the people to do the jobs that you're not getting to. So a lot of people think I'm going to hire an admin to do things that I'm doing that I need to delegate to them. That's one piece of it, right? You may end up hiring an admin to help you with things that you shouldn't be doing because they're truly $8 to $12 an hour jobs and you're worth way more than that.
Exactly.
But you may first have them doing things that you're just not getting to. The first admin I had was just helping me with the website that I knew I needed to develop, but I just didn't have time for. Event that I wanted to produce, but it wasn't my top priority in running my business.
Exactly. And I'm a big believer in having staff. So I noticed that the very first assistant I got, I doubled my business. The very first assistant. And I usually need 2 people because I sell a house a week. And this year I am on track to probably do about 90 listings. I'm 92% listings. The 8% that are buyers are usually people whose houses I've sold out from under them. And I actually refer out every buyer that I get pretty much, except the ones that I feel that I need to take care of, because you can't do everything. You just can't. And I personally, coming from a theatrical background, I love getting a house ready for the market. I love all that. Driving a first-time home buyer around and looking at 30 houses before they decide what they want, that's not so much what I like to do.
I think going back to your theatrical background, though, I bet that experience really taught you that it takes more than one person to put on a show, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's completely
in their special zones. So.
Absolutely. And one of the things that's interesting for me right now is I've gone back to get my PhD. And I can do that because I have excellent help. I have a master's degree from San Francisco State. I have a BA from UC Santa Barbara, and now I'm getting my PhD at the California Institute of Integral Studies in a field called transformative studies. And my focus is on women, aging, and theater. It was going to be women, aging, and real estate. However, I got too depressed when I started looking at all the statistics and I thought it would throw me off my business.
Andrea, you are a fascinating person.
Thank you. But one of the things that's really interesting about the school is that it's 100% online. It's like going back to the pandemic in a certain way. And my classmates are in Indonesia or Germany or
I love that.
Or across country. And I'm getting so exposed to so many. I'm probably the least brilliant person in there. I thought I would be the oldest, but I'm actually third from the oldest. There are 2 women that are older than me in the program.
I love that.
And they're both brilliant and amazing. And we lean on each other in these discussions that we have online and also just through email, what have you. And it's when you realize how much you need other people just to get by. If you think about how all the people that you address in a single day, all the things that come up for you in a single day, you start thinking about the fact that no one succeeds alone, which is the title of Robert Refkin's book.
That's right.
And so, yeah, I love Robert Refkin. He is so wonderful. And I know his mother, Ruth, very well.
Yeah, he's a terrific leader.
Yes, he is. He's a true leader. So I aspire to being like him when I grow up, except for the fact that he's 30 years younger than me. Yeah. So when you are working with your clients, how long is a session?
That's a great question. So I have 2 different programs. I can either come to you wherever you are, anywhere in the country, and do 1 full day with you and your team. It's called the Accelerator Program. It just fast tracks you onto the platform and into systems. I have a little less time obviously building like context and really slow dripping the habits. But we do primarily work on the timeline templates and make sure that you're in the system in a really robust way. The weekly sessions that I do online are every week for 45 minutes virtual, so anywhere in the country. And I take you from, I started my coaching 2 years ago. I would just dive into the checklists. That was like the primary area that I thought people would need help with. But then I realized that I needed to do a lot of context building. I needed to create more of a framework for how the decision-making process unfolds for an agent. Now I start with a mission statement. I start with the greater purpose, and that being your biggest, the highest level decision filter. And so again, as I frame things within the context of decision making, making sure that you are building habits to make the right decisions in the right order throughout the course of the day for the best use of your time in accordance with your priorities. If you don't have a mission statement, then that's very difficult, right? If you don't know your greater purpose, or what I call your destination. And so then I talk a lot also about decluttering. I go from big picture to what is keeping you reacting all the time. And a lot of that has to do with clutter, right? No matter how productive you are, no matter how great you are with your systems, including me, we all experience clutter. And real estate agents, particularly, that resonates for them, right? Because I always say the first thing you tell people that they have to do when they're selling their house is what?
Declutter.
50 to 75% of their crap, right?
Yeah.
And so the physical clutter, we already know, is a weight and a burden, and it is distracting, and it just keeps us from being able to focus. Digital clutter has the same effect. And I heard this great quote that clutter, and this is based on physical clutter, but I think it really applies for digital clutter as well. Clutter is just deferred decision making.
Is deferred decision making?
Decision making. So clutter. So when you have a pile of stuff that you don't want to put away, or you have things that you don't want to discard, it is because you're afraid that at some point you might need them. So you're going to defer the decision making about whether or not you're going to get rid of it or store it or do something else with it. That is true for our emails, right? We keep hundreds and thousands. I know people who have thousands. Good for you. Good for you.
At the end of every day, my inbox is clear.
That's amazing.
I don't go to bed until my inbox is completely clear.
Wow. So I generally
have, told me that.
Yeah, so I generally have like my rule is fewer than 20 in my inbox at any given time. I often say we will habitually go to our emails no matter how well we train ourselves not to do our emails too often. Most people go to their inbox a lot. And when you do, you want it to be, what I say is an inch of quicksand and not feet of quicksand. If you're standing in an inch of quicksand, it can't drag you down. But the higher and higher the level of quicksand, the more it's going to pull you under. And that's the same for your inbox. I also say that's true of the number of tabs you have open. It's true of your digital filing system. People don't know where certain transaction files are because they don't have a really great system. I'm sure you do because you have a team. You can't.
I am anal. It's terrible.
I love it. I love it. And I am generally really organized from a digital standpoint. And my house is fairly uncluttered, but my office right now, I strategically move my piles outside of the sight line of virtual calls because the rest of my office is a mess and it drives me crazy. I feel like there is nobody that doesn't have some amount of clutter in their life.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
A garage somewhere, a storage unit, something.
We're all human, and we collect stuff. Like my husband and I, we got married. I was 46 when I got married. I'm a weirdo in that way. I just never wanted to get married. And then I met Michael and I had to get married. So there you go. And he was 45. And both of us had full households. And so we got a storage unit because we thought we would decide what we wanted to keep later. So we paid for it and we paid for it and we paid for it. And 6 years later, we finally went back there to look at the stuff and realized we didn't want any of it.
Yep.
Because we had already made the decision.
Yes.
We already had made the decision that we didn't need any of that stuff in our daily lives.
Yes. Yes.
But we were too lame to throw it away. And we'd been paying all that money all those
That's
years
right.
for literally nothing. So when you
And
have
people do that from a digital standpoint too, right? They pay for storage, that they're just cluttering and cluttering. And Jerry Seinfeld does this great bit. I don't know if you've heard it. It's part of his stand-up, more recent stand-up. And he says, everything in your life is in just some stage of making it to the trash. And he said, when you put things in the garage is only one letter away from garbage. Which I think all the time is like true of our digital lives as well. When you put it in your like past the first page of your emails, it is just forgotten. You might as well have it in the garage of your life, right?
Yeah,
And people
yeah.
still are so hesitant to archive those. And I say we pay through Compass for unlimited Google storage. So if you can archive all of that and put it into a storage unit that is searchable, that you're not paying extra for, and yet it is not dragging you down every time you go into your inbox, how much more freedom do you have to like actually address the things that are coming in after that? I do mission statement, I do digital decluttering, and then we get to the work of cleaning up their dashboard on the Compass platform so that it's not overwhelming, so that it actually is useful for them. And then actually using the task list in the Compass platform, which I think is the least used function in the entire platform.
I know, I've never gone there.
Yeah, but yet it is the thing that brings business tracker templates and the action plans to a place where you can actually take action on it. So even the product team doesn't pay attention to the task list because that has gotten no attention. It's not at all sexy. But if you're not using the task list, then you have really no reliable roadmap for your day. And I'm all about the roadmap, right? Like, where do you store your thoughts? One of the biggest productivity tips from any productivity guru is get it out of your head, right? Because you cannot reliably remember all the things that pop into your head.
Absolutely.
And most importantly, you can't prioritize what's in your head. If you have no written list of things in any form, then you can't look at the totality of what you need to get done and say, this is the next most important and urgent thing. Next is this thing. So I maintain all day long, we as people, but also particularly as real estate agents, say to ourselves, what's next? What do I need to do next? So I coach to, when you ask that question subconsciously or consciously, you look at your calendar to see what the next appointment is. Then you look at the block of time you have before then. I don't subscribe to time blocking every minute of the day. I don't think that's realistic. So see what you have available and then go to your task list and say to yourself, okay, I have 15 minutes. What's the next most important thing that I can fit in 15 minutes? Okay, I have an hour. What's the next most important thing that I can fit in an hour? And then, but if you have more than one list, then you're going all over the place, getting distracted, and you're never going to actually get to the next most important thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I meet with my staff 3 times a week, and we have something called weekly meeting minutes in which we discuss everything that needs to get done. And then we have a calendar, and we have Google calendars for all of our clients with all of everything that's going on in all of it that's completely transparent for our clients to be able to see it. And even then, things fall through the cracks, and you have to address them as they come up. Certain paperwork. I just found out yesterday that a very important piece of paper did not get signed. That was a process of me asking for it to go out, for the person setting it up to go out, but not pushing a button. So things can happen like that because there's just so many details every single day. You are a phenomenal guest. I have enjoyed this more than any other podcast I've done in the recent past. I have to say, because you're absolutely chock full of really useful information for everybody coming on. And you obviously function with a ton of joy, which is a beautiful to behold. I hope to get to know you better.
Likewise.
Hope to you again. And I really want to thank you for being on the show today. You were just stellar.
I am so grateful to Sean because I didn't tell you this, but I had you on my task list. Connect with Andrea Gordon. And I'm so grateful when Sean made the introduction to you because I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I knew we were going to connect somehow.
So I'd love to talk to you and
absolutely. And however I can help you spread the word, I am happy to.
You are belovedly lovely person.
I'm so happy to meet you.
All right. Listen, take good care. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Bye.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Realizations Podcast. I hope our conversation has shed light on the true essence of real estate and the people behind it. As we wrap up, I want to extend my gratitude to our listeners for their support and engagement. Your feedback drives the heart of this podcast, and I look forward to continuing this journey with you. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing to the Realizations Podcast and leaving a review. Your support helps us reach more listeners and spread our message of positivity in the real estate industry. Until next time, remember to keep an open mind, embrace empathy, and always seek the good in every situation. I'm Andrea Gordon, signing off from Realizations. See you next time.